be giving us a live feed from these two incidents. A couple of casualties have been reported, and these have so far been taken at Kampala Capital City Clinic for treatment. But also we must inform you that in case you're making your way into the city, there could be inconveniences in some of these areas around CPS and also parts around Parliament, of course. And of course we continue calling upon vigilance. Vigilance at this time, in case of any suspected activity or any suspicious character, please inform the security. And also in case you're stopped or some places have been cordoned up, please be able to comply. We'll be going to the scene anytime from now, where our reporters are already deployed to give us more of what is happening. But I'm with Priscilla Naroga. Priscilla, it all started as a peaceful day, but of course we've known in the last 2 to 3 weeks. First was the British Commission warning us, the UK government, that there could be attempted terror threats. Then we saw what happened at Komamboga, that is a Digitapo joint, where a suspected terrorist, we saw a life that was lost, people were injured. Then also, not so far, we had
the transport sector.
The transport sector also being affected by, good enough in that incident, the actual person, according to security reports, shows that one of the terrorists was also
who actually
passed away in this. We've been at this, of course, not forgetting the 2010, what happened at Ethiopian village, and of course here at Chadondo Rugby Club. So we've been at tenterhooks in one way or the other, more so at such a time. Here we are yet to get the actual facts, but what we know, it has been a blast, and security have been trying to get to Luko West Gile, and they said, Robert, we are still busy, but we suspect indeed that there has been 2 bomb blasts in the city.
Well, it's definitely been an interesting morning. The loom of darkness beholds the city, the capital of Kampala. We first had the first one, but it wasn't as much pressure in reference to the ground. And we were having a meeting with my colleagues somewhere within the building. And then the second one went off, and that ascertained that this can only be a bomb. It can't be a tire that has burst somewhere around one of the roads that's around our premises here. And then that's when we confirmed that there had been some bomb blasts nearby where we are right here at UBC.
Because IPS building is not very far.
It's not very far. It's a walking distance. So when I got to find out that that's one of the places that has been affected, I got to raise a call to one of my colleagues that works in one of those places on that particular building, and they did ascertain that the bomb had actually exploded the ground floor, and many of them are actually being rushed to various nearby hospitals. Some information that we have gotten is that there's an AAR facility that is receiving some of these casualties for these bomb blasts. Some skins have got scraped off, eyes are popping for some of the people that are giving me reports here. So we await to see, of course, and get confirmation from the security organs in that regard.
Well, let's now go to Mike Jordan Lukomwa, who happens to be at the scene to give us some information of what exactly transpired and how security is managing the situation right now.
Yes, Chirabo Nyonyintono, thank you so much. It is a very sad morning today in Kampala, Uganda, where we had explosions, and according to the preliminary reports, we have had a lot of injuries and some suspected deaths. As you can see, the situation is tense, and it can't be stable better than this, because we are being pushed away from what is the scene, already cordoned off by security operatives. The security agencies are already in charge of the situation here, but it is sirens of ambulances, sirens of security vans and pickups and all that. The situation is really tense. I can see a lot of police officers here, army officers, military officers are trying to see how they can contain the situation. But as you can see in that direction, it is only ambulances, firefighting trucks, only such vehicles. Why? As you can see, that is the building. Opposite Farmer's House, the building that has a number of ATMs The building that has Diamond Trust Bank ATMs and Absa Bank ATMs opposite Farmer's House. That's where one of the explosions is reported to have occurred, and a number of injuries and deaths have been reported in there. We are yet to confirm. But as you can see in that shot on your screen, it is only firefighter trucks and ambulances around that building, and that tells what the situation has to be or could be inside there. The preliminary reports tell a number of injuries and deaths, and that is what we have gathered so far according to the situation. So it is just tension here. Ambulances are expected to be evacuating those injured. And the firefighter trucks are around the building to put out flames and all that. As you can see, ambulances are being evacuating a number of people that have been injured within the building. And security is in charge of the situation. Uganda last had this kind of a scenario very many years ago in September 11th. That was during when people were watching the World Cup finals in Lugogo and the Ethiopian village in Machinde, where had explosions and over 30 people died in that occurrence. Here is it, where more than 2 have been reported in the city. This early morning at around between 9 and 10, that explosions went off early this morning. So we'll be giving you reports. As you can see, that's another ambulance, St. John's ambulance, and probably it's here to evacuate one of those that have been injured. Security has cordoned off the road between Parliament and Parliament of Uganda and Farmer's House. That road that goes, it connects to what used to be Nando's, then Uganda House. Security has cordoned off that road, and we are not allowed to go beyond the gate of Parliament to close to the building that had the explosion. So we can give you information from a distance, something like 100 or 200 meters to the building that is said to have had the explosion. So far that is the situation here along this street. As you can see, it is only health workers and security personnel that are with the right to walk around and take the chance to contain the situation.
Jordan Lukomwa there on ground of one of the incidents that has happened, and of course reliable information from police that we've been able to get is that right now they cannot give an exact figure of how many people could have been injured, but all they are assuring the public is please remain calm. Security forces are doing all it takes to ensure that they restore order, and also Lucas just said please abide by the current inconveniences because some roads have gotten diversions, and also abide by what security is instructing you. He said most of a time like this people tend, Priscilla, not to abide if they tell you do not cross this particular point, because sometimes when terrorists carry out such activities they know that sometimes there would be presence of people rushing at a certain point.
That's true.
And they take advantage of that again. So police is urging you that when you're told do not access, do not go to this venue, please do not at such a time. Do not take this road. If this has been cordoned off,
So basically where we are seeing red tape right now, especially in around the Parliamentary Avenue, that is a place that is definitely a no-go zone right now. And the purpose as to why they're pushing people away from the area code is that it's still a live place. Anything can happen right now because it's still a live explosion site. And that is to protect people and also to make sure that every form of evidence is protected to be able to then carry out further investigations into exactly what has gone down this morning. When you talk about traffic, obviously any traffic that is going through Parliamentary Avenue, if you are accessing the likes of side Chintu Road, all those areas are going to not be accessible as of the rest for the day. Even some parts of Ginger Road, I'm pretty sure, on the other side where you do have DFCU Bank and the railway on the other side, I think those are also going to be cut off for security purposes, and we're going to be having diversionary routes that we'll later share with you, because I know that given the instability and the insecurity within the heart of the city, people are now reconsidering having to go back home so that they can allow security agencies to be able to carry on their work throughout the day.
And very importantly also to note is that police is doing all it takes to ensure that first and foremost the public must remain calm, no need to panic at such a time, and also let them to carry out their work, because usually what happens is in fighting crime, the scene of crime most of the times, if it has been violated or or contaminated, if I use that term, that investigations become very hard. And that is one of the changes Uganda Police has always been talking about, that even where we would get relevant evidence, you find that these scenes have been contaminated. People want to know, people want to be at places they shouldn't be in terms of this, yet this could render their lives also in danger. But let's look at the element of such incidents of terrorism. We know terrorism is a global threat. And the world over, this is something that many countries are battling with. Even the developed world, when you look at United States of America, their biggest even budget would go into pacifying areas, because they know such areas, once they have not sent foreign missions, not invested so much, are going to be a breeding zone for terrorism. Recently, when we had the bus bombing and also the Komamboga, our police, the police mouthpiece, that is Fred Enanga, came out and said this could be remnants of ADF. And as we speak, over 50 people have so far been arrested in connection to these bombs, as our security officers try to do all it takes to iron out. Still looking at some of the images coming in there, of course, we see that heavy deployments, and notwithstanding that we have been having a number of deployments within the town, but of course we now see more of what is happening. Those are images that are coming in from the scene of a crime or where these blasts have occurred. And like we told you, one is just next to Parliament, and we will be also informed that around that is Central Police Station, there could be a likelihood of the same. But of course we know we'll be updating you and giving you footages, taking you to the scene of crime as and when we are able to do that, and also security permits that. Priscilla.
Yes, of course, you get to also look at the areas that have been affected by the bomb blasts and what their significance is to the capital of Kampala. You get to see around CPS, of course, you do have the Central Police Station that has been heavily affected. The photos that are moving around social media show the heaviness of the bomb blast. Just on the Parliamentary Avenue, we do have so many government offices that sit on that street, Parliament being one of them, among others. The prisons ministry is right there. You do have the IGG's office that is right within that very same premises. And so our hearts and prayers are with the families that are having people that are injured, casualties, and we pray that they will be able to survive this bomb blast. But more so, one would then ask themselves, what is the significance of these bomb blasts coming close or even directly in the heart of the city, Robert?
First, we must understand, you know, when these cowardish, His Excellency usually even goes to an extreme mind of calling them these pigs, well, they want to create an impact. I remember the first press conference after the Komamboga incident. It happened over the weekend. And Enanga addressed journalists and said, these may look to be domestic, simple, made explosives. But we must be careful, because they could target key installations. Because at the end of the day, the magnitude of the blast, the effect of the blast, is what the terrorist is looking out for. how many people are lost, what is the extent of damage. This is their #1 achievement. So because they want to create fear. They want to create fear within their communities. And you know, when there is panic, when there is fear, irrational decisions can be made among the masses. That is why they will go out for people that are really not in maybe a front line, because a terrorist looks at gaps in security so that they can carry out their mission. But you see, why usually they are referred to as cowards, because they are not going on a front line. They're not attacking maybe a barracks, they're not coming out maybe a war, but they want to create fear. And how do you create fear? The magnitude of the blast, the more lives are lost, the key installation and their relevance when you make this hit is what the terrorist is looking out for. Usually it is life or installations that they have attacked. That is why you find that when they went to the US, they looked for the Twin Towers. Remember those bombings? Something that will create a big impact. When you remember that Westgate here in our neighbors in Kenya, because Kenya has had more of these incidents compared to Uganda, it's all about impact in terms of the graveness of damage caused.
Well, definitely, it's in terms of impact. But also, how do you assess security? Let's, for example, pick it up from the Komamboga bomb blast that we had. Has security changed since then, especially for outlets, especially for places that actually bring in a lot of crowding? When you look at the buses, when you look at the transport system, has it actually enhanced its security power? When you look at just even the workplaces that we are in that have are accessible to the public, and you do have a lot of traffic that comes in on a daily, is the question of security, has it been tightened in these few weeks that we have actually had those two? They might be small, but they've caused terror. But what has been the response of Ugandans? And we have to look at it from one, I as a Ugandan, have I been able to be more vigilant? I had an experience. I was going for a football game within one of these sports centers. And when we got to the place, they actually told us to get out of the car. And they thoroughly checked the car. And I had to ask, what, is there a threat? There's something. It's like, no. You see, we had the incident in Komamboga. We don't want to be the incident in our premises, so we have to now be more vigilant. And I thought, wow, this is very good, but how many other people have actually picked up that sense of urgency to make sure that they really secure their places, their properties, their businesses to avoid such things?
Well, first, Priscilla, what we must notice is that security begins with you. As we may look at the security agencies, it is you the first line of security. But you've asked me about these 2 weeks. I must say that at institutional level, institutions, like you've talked about, we've had some bit of tightening of security. But individual level, I don't think we've done so much. Let me take you back when we had just had the Ethiopian village and of course the Ragebe bombings, those two bombings. You'd go to a place, you find that people were so eager to ensure that and concerned about their security. Now, when we had these bombings, the first blast, the Komamboga, and of course that in Swift Coast, you find that kind of, there was a bit of, I don't want to allude it to politicking, but there was a bit of people not really coming up to the feel that this is real terrorism with us.
Yes.
Maybe because what I talked about, the impact of this bombing, that maybe these were incidents where maybe 1 or 2 lives were lost. And in the minds of people, many much as it was being said, it was being reported, many of them kind of doubtingly of what had happened. But now with this, of this magnitude, you're going to see that vigilance is going to come up. Because we can, the best weapon in fighting terrorism is the eye. What you see, being observant, being vigilant, and reporting to the authority. Because police may not be everywhere. Yes, intelligence is important, and our country has a lot of, we can talk about units, institutions that are aimed at security. But for example, I'll tell you.
What you see, of course, is footage that is coming in live from Parliamentary Avenue. We're seeing a car that is on fire and flames and the affected buildings around. We do have Jubilee House that is in that very same area code. We do have one of those other Raja courts is also one of the buildings that is directly affected. There's so many restaurants in those places. It was a morning. People were trying to get themselves some breakfast. And so the tension, of course, that has been created by the bomb blasts, especially in this particular area code, is is something that is worrying, and you can see security agencies are trying to make sure that they ascertain exactly where it started from or where it could have directly been planted and how they could have gotten into the building so as to have a blast come off this morning.
And well, very soon, Fieldman Aruna Mutesasa will be joining us, of course, with more regarding he's been there and what exactly has been happening. Of course, we know that when such happens, ballistic experts, various units of security agencies take some time to really ascertain and give a conclusive report. But what we are giving you now is what is happening at the scene, and of course, trying to look at some of the histories and incidents that have taken us as a country where we had lives lost, we've had injuries registered, and of course where also security has tried in one way or the other. I remember just a few weeks back, that is the head of the internal security organization, that is Colonel Charles Oluka, when he said we've been able to foil about 47 incidents that would have gone off. So that means that yes, much as we have these incidences, police and security agencies are doing their best. Well, Haruna Mutesasira has just joined us. Haruna, yes, sir. You've been there. What is the situation, giving us your analysis of our ground soldier?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Yes, I reached there around it was around 10 minutes after the blast. And then what I found there was totally 2 people were dead. One was, the head was shattered completely, and even the brain was just smashed around those two buildings. There was the IGG building, and then another building nearby, the IGG, that is the ICT building. And then when we try to proceed, where you see that car, which caught fire, and then we found that there was another person who was also in between the two vehicles. He was crying for help, but there was nobody to give an assistance. And then, from the information which I got from the people who were around that very time when the bomb has just blasted, they told me that maybe it was somebody who came on the border, and then he stood with something which was like a bag, and then it went off immediately by that time. So the people who were nearby that place were supposed to be evacuated, but there was nobody to give them an assistance.
Well, what is the situation like now?
By the time when I left this place now, there was the bomb squad. They arrived at the scene, and then also fire brigade 2 vehicles had also arrived, and then also there was also emergency evacuation cars, ambulances, which also came to give an assistance to those who were those who were injured.
Aruna, take us to the evacuation, because you know when this happens, you've talked about people that were rushing out. What was the exercise like? Was it a police? Was it struggle for the fittest? People running out? Just a picture of how this is a building that houses a number of offices.
For the first 5 minutes, it was severe evacuations. People were around the building. They came to give an assistance because most of those vehicles which you are seeing parked at the veranda. Everybody was just trying to leave the place. Nobody was just giving a hand to anybody who was injured. So it was only civilians who came up to give an assistance to those who were injured. Until after like 10 minutes, when 2 fire brigade arrived, and then also some policemen from the other side of the parliament also came to give an assistance.
Well, Aruna, we'll be getting back to you, but let's also now again go back to the scene where Mike Jordan Rukoma is for an update. Yes, Jordan.
Yes, okay. We are still coming to you live from the scene where we had an explosion this early morning, one of the 2 places that had an explosion. Now, the building that was shattered, according to what we have gathered, it is IPS building, which houses the chambers of the Inspector General of Government, a number of financial institutions, that is ABSA, Diamond Trust Bank, and a number of them, plus other offices, including law firms and a number of entities. Now, according to the preliminary information we have gathered, it was a bomb which was planted in one of the cars that park around that place, and the people that were at the scene prior that were at the scene when the explosion had just gone off say the 3 people that are reported to have died in the incident, and according to they saw they were shattered. The building was shattered and the car itself that had the bomb was shattered. So the motive is not yet known, and security has taken over the whole place. The road is cordoned off. Actually, you will see that journalists were only allowed to be at the gate of Parliament, like 200-300 meters away from the real scene of crime. And as you can see on your screen, there is a firefighter truck that has blocked the road near the parliamentary premises. Inside Parliament, the information we have is that MPs have been barred from getting out because of the situation, and security is totally in charge. So it is ambulances, security vans, security personnel and health workers that are around the place to see that they contain the situation, which I will describe as highly tense here at this street. There are a number of big offices around this place. Former Ministry of Education, which is just neighboring the Land Commission, Ministry of Lands, I beg your pardon, and again the Uganda Prisons offices just opposite Parliament on the same street. There is another building where we know that it houses a number of MPs' offices just opposite the building that had the explosion. Then when you continue, there are a number of law firms, a number of business entities that are housed by the different buildings on the same street that stretches to go towards Uganda House. So that is the situation. It's very tense here. No one is allowed to move an inch. Security is in charge to make sure that they contain the whole situation. We have not talked to any security personnel, but we have hope and we'll give you more credible information from them to tell us what exactly happened according to their gatherings in a security perspective, and why the cordon off and what it intends to take on as action after what happened. So we thank you so much for watching, but so far that is what we have gathered. Remember, like I said, the roads are cordoned off and we're not allowed to move anyhow, so we are getting information in technical kind of ways. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chirabo Nyonyintono, as we gather more information. We also want to cross to the downtown end where another explosion was reported to gather more information and beef it up with what we have so far given to you. I can see an ambulance coming in. I don't know whether it is evacuating somebody because we have also been told that a number of people have been injured in the building. Remember, the explosion went off when the working day had just begun. Yes, so it is said that a number of people have been injured in there on top of the 3 which are so far reported to have died on instant.
Well, thank you, Jordan Lukomwa, who is at the scene of crime, and of course anytime he will be heading yet to another scene of crime. But we still have Mutesa Sila, and of course most of this footage was gotten by you when you were at the scene. Jordan ategezeza nti wabaddewo okubwatuka ekyo kyekimu kye tukkiriza, era n'agamba nti waliwo abantu abakoseddwa n'abo abateeberezebwa nga betulinda poliisi okuvaayo n'amawulire ag'enkukunadde ku bameka abakoseddwa n'ameka abayinza okuba abavudde mu bulamu bw'ensi. Naye gwe bw'otuuse mu kifo kino kulwaba naffe abalaba mu lulimi by'olulala, biki by'osanze oba biki byofunye ku bantu ababaddewo abalabye embeera eno ng'esajjuka?
Okay, nze nfunye omukisa nti nze omu ku basooseewo ku bannamawulire mu kifo kino nga bombu yakabwatuka, era nfunye omukisa nti neeyongere n'entambadde paka ku mmotoka ki ebadde ennyokako omuliro abadde bomu wennyini. Naye bwe ntuuseewo nsanzeewo omutwe gw'omuntu nga guli shattered ng'obwongo bwayiise, nga n'ebitundu by'omubiri byonna byonna nga biri mu luguudo biyiisaawo. Kino kinjogerawo kiri wakati wa ekikubo ekiyingira wakati w'ekizimbe kya IGG n'ekizimbe kya ICT. Waliwo parking ya wansi, omukazi itaano zigenda ki wansi eyo. Wapakinga emmotoka ya poliisi ya patrol, waliwo n'emmotoka endala ebadde nga Range Rover. Kati bomu ebadde ebwatuse, kino kibwatuse nga bomu kibadde wakati w'emmotoka eyo ya Range Rover n'ekabanga lya poliisi, era wavudde ki wavudde omuliro omungi. Naye ku kindabye nzinga bwe ntuuseewo ndabye nti ebifi by'ennyama ebadde bikunkumusaawo biraga nti bya muntu omu, era ng'alabika nti either bw'aba si yazinde bomu yabadde omupi ne bomu ki webadde, era waddewo ne bodaboda emu. Then opposite awali edukota ya minso ya justice wabadde nawo ebintu ebikonkomose ebiryaganga omubiri gwaki gw'omuntu kati wabadde omusajja abadde alajana nti munyambe era badde omwami omu najja naga nti abannaye nga polisi naba kujja nje tuyambeko omusajja tumusitule nebamusitula netujja nga tumufiriminga paka ku kapavement ka parliament ebamujje emoka polisi nemussaako nemutwala then netula n'omuntu omulala era opposite ekizimbe kya IGG nga naye alajana nga naye amanso gonna face nga tusula mutegeera kubanga fragments balize kuzeeki zimujjeeko face eno nga just apala upazi era ne bamukwatako najibwawo then oluvannyuma polisi y'oku parliament njebaza nti basobodde okutekinga ki obuvunanyizibwa ne bajja basaleko ekifo ekyo obutakkiriza abantu bonna kolaki kubanga emmotoka ebadde kutta omuliro obudde egana ebwatuka netudduka nga tubuuza nti bomu yakubiri naye ebadde ki ebadde emmotoka so ne basalako ekifo ekyo nensigalawo nzenzeka mu area eyo eya bomu webwatukidde ku saidi y'ekyengulu waliko ATM za banka ezo awo wona wansi awo endabima zonna zibuuseemu kikulaga nti bomu eno ebadde y'amaanyi then oluvannyuma polisi ekwasaganya ebya bomu batuuse natandika okukola ki okusalako ekifo ekyo then n'abalala abeyokwendadde mu ngoye za civilians ne batuuka naye dakika 15 emmotoka ezikiza omuliro eya fire brigade neetuuka tandika okuzikiza emmotoka ebadde evaako ki bomu yabwatukedde wenyenyini ne bagizikizaawo
pozi omuntu kyayagala okwebuuza sinakweta mwanyinaze Priscilla naye kutuwa kuba tumulabye ng'akubakuba ku masimu ku bantu bamanyi akwera mu kifo ekyo abantu abalala bafulumye batya ekizimbe kino kuba otubulidde ku bana abakubiddwa kuba tukimanyi nti abatujjubana enkola yaabwe banti olumu basookawo bomu eno esoose bamanya agenda kubaawo mu kasatiro ne batega abalala abajja enfuluma y'abantu banaala okuva mu kizimbe kino ekibeeramu abantu bangi ne ofiisi ennyingi ebadde etya
mpozi enfuluma y'abantu abadde mu kizimbe ekyo ebadde mbi nnyo kubanga jjukira nti engeri kubadde kwa kigwirawo buli omu abadde apala upazi ng'akola ki ng'avaawo naye obuzibu baddewo nti buli badde abasinga bafuluma bapakinga emmotoka zaabwe ku pavements eziri awo kati nga babaga mujjewo emmotoka naye ng'omuntu yazze n'emmotoka agiyitako n'adduka n'adda noka ku parliament nababuuza naye n'ekisumbo ky'emmotoka eno ate naga emmotoka yange nakasuka ebisumuluzo then kati abazakisa balina emitima emigumu ne bajja navuga emmotoka ezo okuzijja naye ng'okusinga ddala obwedde abasinga buli ava mu kizimbe ezo omuntu akwata ddala ku kizimbe era ekya edukota za UPC oba abalala bakira wansi eno nga ku luguudo lwa Jinja Road abalala nga bameka ku KCCA so kabadde kasatyo kamaanyi nnyo nga buli omu ali mu kutya ku kintu kibadde ekivuze ekyo
Priscilla oyogeddeko you at least if you know when this happened we know of course a number of people are making calls here and here but also your assessment of this situation in terms of that is the people that you could have contacted or any information that has come in.
Yes, I do have a friend who works on one of the restaurants on Jubilee House, the building that he is referring to, and immediately I go to find out that that's a particular area that has been affected by the bomb blast. I gave her a call to find out if she's okay, and when I called her actually she was shivering and she was in tears and she was just also trying to make sense of the situation and what had just happened. But she did refer and to the ground floor that he is talking about, that there was the bomb blast happened on the ground floor of the building and it has affected all of them. Equally, my bank is on the same building, and if he's talking about the shattered building, that is calling one of my colleagues or my bankers in that particular spot, and they're not picking up. So I pray that they are well, but definitely there's more direct casualties that we're yet to register than we know of at the moment.
Well, personally, I've been able to contact at least the police spokesperson, deputy police spokesperson for Kampala, but the simple list was Chirabo. Yes, what you want to know has really happened, but we are doing all the best. Just help us, tell the public not to panic. And that is the message I can deliver. Don't panic, remain calm. Security is doing all its best to restore order in the city, and also urge people, please, if you're told, do not go to this place. Because right now, what I've heard is that sometimes tourists use one bomb and the other follows
traffic to another.
To another. So they are saying, if you find a place that has been cordoned off, maybe they have received intelligence information, please just abide by that. If you're told, leave, vacate this building, head back home, please do that. If you're told, not take this route at such a time, abide by that. Mutesasira nga nkomyewo ewuwo bwe tunulira obutujju buno enkola eno ey'ekitujju twalaba wiiki nga 3 emabega kyatandika mpola ekoma mboga bannayuganda abamu ne bakikkiriza nti kyali kibaddewo abamu ne batandika faatujju be tumanyi be bali abakuba ebintu ebinene bwe twalaba ku swift coach nagambye naye bomu buno obukolebwa wano poliisi neerabula abantu nega nti olumu abatujju batandika na bino ebitono naye ne bagenda nga banoonya ebifo ebyamakulu muzungu tuta key installations. Kino kitegeeza ki eri bannayuganda nga bassekinnoomu okuba nti beekuuma obutujju?
Nze ndowooza nti buli omu alina okuba nga mu nkola ennyangu nti twebereramu kubanga poliisi eze etugamba nti bw'oba olina kintu kyobwekengedde oba nsawo oba olaba omuntu ayeebuzaabuza gezaako okuba nti otegeeza ki abakuumaddembe. Embeera eno enzijukiza mu 2017 bwe nali e Mogadishu nti yeefaananyizaako nga bwe twali twakatuuka ku kisaawe ky'e Mogadishu ne General Katumba nga kyali CDF era okubatuka kwali ng'okubadde olwaliwo naye nga si kw'amaanyi naye mu mbeera eyaliwo abantu nga balowooza nti oba oliawo blast zikoze eki ekendedde then ne wajjawo blast eyali ennene ennyo eyaviirako oba oliawo n'ebizimbe byaliwo kubanga bibwatuka byonna nga bigwa wansi n'emmotoka zonna ezaaliwo okuba nzikolaki zikwata omuliro. So kitegeeza ki nti abatujju bano enkola yaabwe ey'obutujju oba oliawo erimu okuba nti beekenneenya enkuba yaabwe oba gye bakozesaamu ebintu bye bakozesa okuba bomu. Ogeza ng'olunaku olwaleero bw'otunuulira ekifo nga kino kuba tubatera okugamba nti oba oliawo bakozesa ebifo ebirimu abantu abangi naye tewabadde bantu bangi nti ezimu ku streets mu Kampala Nairobi Avenue eyo oba Parliamentary Avenue eyo tebaako bantu bangi. Kitegeeza nti wateekwa okubeerawo strategy yaabwe oba enkola yaabwe ey'emirimu nga bageza okuba nti oba oliawo benyigira mukola ebintu byaki ebyobutujju.
Mpozi amawira amalala agakagawawo ge twakafuna nti ate ne mu katale e Nakasero naye wabaddeyo ekintu bwe kiti nti news coming in is also at Nakasero market well there's also occurred another blast. So that makes it about now so far 3 and that is why we continue to 4 now. That is why we continue to tell you that please if you're told not to access any venue, this is a time you should abide by the security information coming in. But also very importantly is we are calling for vigilance. For vigilance, anything you suspect, any suspicious item or a person who in any way or the other behaves suspicious, please it is a time that we report such incidents to the security. Police is encouraging us that they have deployed all over the city to ensure that such incidents do not continue to happen. So let's cooperate with security forces. Sebo twetya agenda maaso atwakawira gana mawulire agenda kasona ogayingiddewo tyate nayo wabaddeyo embeera bwetyo naye nga tumanyi nti UBC abasasi baffe banafaayo Oluganda bagenda kubanga bakuwa embeera nga bwegenda. Priscilla, as I have Mutesasila's final word before you leave for yet another assignment to bring us more regarding the field. Ensonga zino nga tugenda kati Nakasero tukiwulidde munnaffe nti naye wabaddewo okubwatuka okw'ekikabwe kityo tulinda poliisi tubuulira amawulire agamukunadde kuba meka afunye obuvune n'embeera bwe.
Ndoza kituuzayo kyoyogeddeko nti abantu bonna mu ggwanga balina okubeera nga tubeera bulindaala ku nsonga y'okuba nti twefaayo ku byokwerinda ate n'okulipootinga oba oliawo bw'oba ozudde ekintu bw'oliawo kyoteebereza okuba nti kiyinza okuba ekyobulabe eri abantu ba bulijjo oba naawe ng'omuntu wa bulijjo kulaba nti okozesa byokwerinda ate okuba nti amawulire ago gasaasana n'abantu bonna ba bulijjo.
Aluna katukuleke ssebo ate weeyongereyo n'emirimu gyo twongere okutegeeza munaffe nti UBC tugenda kubanga tukuwa amawulire nga bwe gaakagwawo era amawulire agamaze okubanga gakakasibwa. Tukutegezaako nti maaso awo tusuubira tujja kuba tufuna ne poliisi ng'ebaako kyetuwa ate munaffe ku nsonga ezigenze maaso twakafuna amawulire nti okubwatuka kuno kubadde mu bitundu 4 munaffe atuuliza wano awolaba ku TV yo ekibaddewo kumpi ne Parliament gye tuta Jewel Insurance Building ate munaffe ne wali ku CPS Coach Towers nawo munaffe okubwatuka kubaddewo ate ne katale e Nakasero nawo tufunye amawulire nti munange nawo wabaddewo okubwatuka. Embeera bwetyo bweri mu kibuga Kampala munaffe ne tutegeeza nti jjukira ebyokwerinda tebasobola kukola bokka beetaaga ggwe nange ke kaseera buli omu wooli beera mu kalabakalaba bw'obaako kyolabye kyosuubira kiyinza okuba nga kyabulabe tegeeza ab'ebyokwerinda bwatukimanyi nti tukakasiddwa nti bayiye mu bitundu byonna naddala mu kibuga Kampala. Priscilla, these are unfortunate incidents, and on such a day where many maybe thought that it was all done, what we had had so far, and security had done all it takes. But now at such a time, how best should the public, in your opinion, be handling such a situation?
Well, you did make a strong case earlier on when you stated that terrorist groups, if they are to make a big statement, they'll start with small, incidences here and there. We had 2 small blasts and everyone thought those can easily be brushed off. They're not such a scare. But now we're registering the 4th bomb blast in Nakasero Market. If you look at Nakasero Market, it employs over 10,000 people and you have daily traffic and it works 24 hours a day. So imagine how exactly that is going to be affecting trade within the capital of the city moving forward from today. You get to look at the fact that it brings in traders, it brings in service providers, it has vendors, traders that bring in all sorts of trades, not just produce, but they do have those that deal in fisheries, there are those that deal in clothes. Then of course you also get to look at the markets around that have different kinds of businesses that are running. So that is Loom Street. There's also a big supermarket right there. You do have a lot of arcades right below the market that are also dealing in household the equipment. So there's a lot of business that is being put to a standstill. One wonders what this is going to mean to the economy, which we were excited that come January 2022 is going to be having full reopening. But if full reopening is going to be coming at the pinch of terrorism, then that is definitely something that needs to be dealt with and dealt with right now as we speak, Robert.
And of course we know that terrorism is a global problem. But of course we know that we've ever defeated terrorism in this country. And what was the reason was public vigilance. We must accept that over a time, maybe there have been lapses here and there. Now when we talk about places like markets, previously accessing a market, we had thorough checkups. Today you go to most of these places where checkups may not be done. When we look at some of the
checkups have been limited to observance of COVID-19 SOPs, social distancing, washing hands, and making sure that people sanitize as they access the market, allowing in just a few numbers to do their purchases, come out, and allow another batch of numbers to go in. That's the best they've been doing in terms of management of crowd.
Definitely, but also you must look at vigilance in terms of the public. I'll give you an example. After we had these twin bombings, even if you sat in a taxi and someone left maybe a bag, a briefcase or anything, people would call them back, come back, even if it was a mobile phone that rang or an alarm. So there was a lot of vigilance, and we must accept this over time had moved away. Even at institutional levels, when you go to some places where you find if checking is done, it's just for formality.
It had been moved away because there had been reinstatement of peace and security within the country, and that's why it had been moved away. And so people were starting to get back into their livelihood. Of course, you're referring to the bombs that happened 2011. It was a very terrifying time for the entire country all over, and so many people that were affected. So many young people got to lose their lives, and ever since that happened, of course, the security went up. But one of the things that I do appreciate in that time frame is the fact that there was a lot of sensitization, mass sensitization that went out, especially from security agencies. They did make employment of media houses and publicities to be able to send out the message of the vigilance, the personal vigilance that you're talking about, that if you see suspect something, call this number, reach out to the nearest post, do this, do that. And I think that's what we need to deploy right now to be able to, save what may be possibly planned by these terrorist groups tomorrow.
Just reminding me, yesterday we had, that is the PRO, Minister of Internal Affairs, that is Jacob Siminyu, and one of the things that he hinted on is people being vigilant. Actually, he says that Uganda has a problem of porous borders. Actually, we have about, there are about 336 in number that were discovered mostly during the time of COVID. But he said Ugandans have reached a point even where we no longer consider to know who is the person within your vicinity, because terrorists do not come from another planet. Most of the times, these are people that live within us, understand how we carry out work, look for gaps in our security then they are able to establish such that there is something in the mind of many Ugandans that a tourist must be a foreigner, maybe a person of some origin, a person that will look unique in any sense. Yet, modern-day terrorism is people are recruited that are within us. When you look at some of the suspects and some of the faces that police has produced as people they are looking for, or the few they have arrested, you find that these are real Ugandans, people that are more like us. So we must have a mentality of knowing that anybody, allow me to use this word, anybody is a potential terrorist. Anyone can disguise and carry out this. So that means that neighborhood watch, being sensitive of the places we go to, being able to put this on our agenda, that hey, this place we are going into, we are entering, how safe is it? Have we factored in issues of terrorism? If a person comes in our community, who is this person? Strange person. Have they identified themselves with the necessary local authorities or the authorities that be in this vicinity?
Okay, all right, but also we have to look at how have we been able to assess and more so be able to convert the information that has been gathered over the period of time that we've experienced the last two minor bombs that we had in Komambuga and of course the one en route on PG. We get to see that upon the alert, the security alerts that we did receive from the government of the UK, of course there were advisory alerts being issued out to either people that were yet to travel to Uganda or even those that were traveling from Uganda getting into these countries. And it was one of the indicators is that it was geared towards such people. And you look at November, it's a very hype season in terms of travel and also a hype season in terms of us receiving people that are traveling from around the world, which again is going to affect us in terms of how much that is going to cost us in regards to foreign-based revenue that is meant to be coming in this season. There's so many diaspora Ugandans who had plans of coming back home, but now with these terror attacks, 4 in a day, and we're not sure what is yet to happen because the day has not yet closed. But then the interpretation of that within this season, it's definitely worrying.
Well, that clearly explains the aim of terrorists. What is their intention? And of course, first they look at creating fear among the people, instilling fear among the people and panic among the people. Therefore, you see irrational decisions being taken sometimes. Also, we find that many of the times terrorists aim at also
of course the pictures that are being shown to us right now, that's Kochi Towers where the second bomb blast happened shortly or concurrently with the one that happened around Parliamentary Avenue. That is a scene right from the rooftop of Kochi Towers, giving you a picture into Central Police Station. There's a picture there. You get to see a truck that is almost in despair. You get to see a body lying down on the ground. You're seeing glass shutters all over the area code, showing you how powerful and also serious that bomb blast has been. Of course,
that brings out the other issue that you see they aim at instilling fear. Just imagine how that can happen at Central Police Station, which is one of the biggest police stations we have and equipped police stations we have. So that a person can have a feeling that if this can be carried out at such a key, I would call it maybe a key installation, because that's, so what does it mean? At the end of the day, that is where we get people panic. But of course, these images that are coming in, anytime we know that police is going to come out with clear information, maybe regarding the figures, and of course, authentic preliminary investigations where they could have discovered. But all we know now is, yes, we've had 4 blasts in the city. And of course, if you look at all of them, one would say some have occurred at key installations, very vital places. When you look at anything to do with the August House, any neighborhood of the August House, come to Central Police Station. Yes. Also, you find that that is another installation. Go to Nakasero Market. That is also another place within the Central Business District. Still bring a lot of relevancy. But our team is on ground, and we will be keeping you informed of as when events will be unfolding in the city. But all we can say now from police is no need to panic, remain calm, abide by the directions and the regulations that are being put in place right now. And they are telling, if you have nothing to do in the city, actually, it was very clear that if you can, please leave the city and let security carry out their work. If you can, because importantly is They do not want these scenes of crime to be contaminated. That is one thing that is coming in. They do not want these scenes of crime to be contaminated because they are vital in investigation. You have no business at a scene that has been deployment. Please leave that scene to allow security organs gather the relevant evidence that they will need for forensics and anything that will help us bring to book these people.
Okay, all right. Of course, you're looking at ways we can avert these imminent threats that we are receiving this morning. Collaboration is very essential in helping police to be able to ascertain and make the possible findings that they need. Of course, that would be first aid treatment to these occurrences. You also get to see that we shall definitely need a lot of backing from individuals, but also from security, personnel, that when it comes to the different affected areas, now you're going to be required to actually be abiding to security that is going to be set up in different places. Now, don't take it as a rude way of interrupting with your engagement in these spaces. No, it is simply to make sure that we stop any of these happening again. So we're definitely calling upon the backing of Ugandans in this time to be able to adhere to any calls that are being given, any advice that is being given, whatever police is yet to deliver to us as adherence is standard operating procedures for such a time as this. We call and urge Ugandans to be able to adhere to it so that we can tackle this new terrorism threat that we are seeing.
Maybe also just to take you back of where these incidents have happened, we had a blast that went off at the entrance between the ICT Ministry and the IGG's office and Jubilee Insurance. That is the incident there. We also were a suspected bomber believed to be moving on a border was also is suspected to have lost a life there, and also tourists indicate the suspect died. We also had a Toyota vehicle and a police vehicle went on fire. Ambulances evacuated the injured, that is to the nearby KCCA Health Center. Security is tight at these scenes of crime, and of course we know that another blast also went off at Nakasero market, where we'll be also giving you more information regarding that. But as of now, this is the situation that is happening in the city, and police continue to urge the public that there's no need to panic. Security is doing all it takes to ensure that they restore order, but also abide by the given regulations in terms of restricting movement at such a time. Recently, police came out and indicated that the first two incidents, that is at the Komamboga and Swift Koshes, had a linkage with the ADF rebel group and also the Islamic State, that is the ISIS, that were funding such activities. A number of people were arrested by police, but also to remind you that also there are a number of clues that police was investigating. That is when police came out and said they're investigating some petroleum organizations, also some organizations that are believed to be funding these ADF and these suspects. However, as of now, we still know some have been paraded before court. Others' investigations are still ongoing into these issues. But we concretely believe and sure that police will come up with something very satisfactory to Ugandans as far as how investigations have gone and what could be going wrong in a peaceful part of Africa at such a time.
Okay. Of course, the footage that is running on your screen right now, Parliamentary Avenue, they're giving you the side of Jubilee House, which is also having or harboring offices for the IGG. You get to see people that are allowed to evacuate their vehicles if they can be identified, and then so that they can make room for police to carry out its investigations. Now, you wonder why you have standbys that are choosing to still stay at the scene of crime, and yet it's a very dangerous place to be. And as you stated, that we have so far had a count of 4 bomb blasts within the heart of the city. Vigilance is key right now. Where you are, please make sure that your eyes are more open now more than ever to make sure that you know or you are aware of anything that is next to you, even if it's just a water bottle, you still have to be careful. If it's not you who has placed it there or a person that you know, then now is the time to be suspicious of anything so that these can be directly reported. Of course, we're going to be sharing the numbers that you can report to any sort of threat, scare, or information that you could be having directly to police later on.
Well, information just coming in is Nakasero market is clear and business is normal, contrary to the earlier reports, and consider them as false. Shortly, our team will be bringing you, that is the pictures from the scene that is at Nakasero market. So just to rectify that it is very clear and business is normal. But also we continue to urge you that this is from such places that are attracting crowds as of now. If you can, please vacate any place where there are crowds, because any place right now is a potential target of tourists, because all they are looking for are crowds. All they are looking for is creating an impact. So please be wise enough. This is from such gatherings. Like we've already said, if it is not an emergency, then please do not be part. Unless you must be at such a place. But if you must not be, please then desist. Do not access such venues, as police and security agencies try their best to ensure that we do not have a recurrence of such acts in any part of the country, any part of the city. Yes, Priscilla.
Well, the procedures are still continuing. The police is definitely doing their very best to make sure that they avail us with information regarding what has happened and is happening this morning. But again, under no circumstances should you panic. Where you are, please stay there. Even if you're in a building that you're not supposed to be in initially, just stay there at least for an hour until we have some peace that is, settling within the areas that have been affected before you can move to your next location. Because honestly, if we were to be truthful, I would have probably ended up in the one on CPS, because I was meant to be going in that direction, but because of the meeting that we had here, maybe today would have been my day. I don't know. Anyway, but as you know, that we do have the KCCA clinic that is attending to the casualties there. AAR still on Parliamentary Avenue has also taken in some casualties, and they're attending to them. I know that people are making phone calls here and there, checking on their loved ones, and I'm sure police is going to be also presenting to us a list of names of the casualties that have been taken to the various hospitals and clinics around the areas that have been affected with the bomb blasts.
Very unfortunate incident, but of course we are in this together, and we can only overcome these ill-minded people when we work together as Ugandans. This is a time to unite together for the good of our country, putting aside all our differences and availing information that is very relevant to police. Well, that is at least of what was happening earlier on there, where we saw this huge blast, and of course that was around Central Police Station. But we continue to tell you that there is no need to panic, and I see now Mike Jordan Lokomoa has arrived at the areas around CPS, where we also had another blast, and any time from now we'll be connecting to him to give us the situation as it is as of now on the ground. Yes, Jordan. Well, anytime we'll be back to Jordan, just clearing out a few things, and we'll be able to get him live from the scene where we are seeing a bit of business kind of normalizing there. That is at the scene of next to CPS. But as we are looking at what happened around Parliament Avenue, business is not yet back to normal, and we are library informed that members of Parliament have been told not to leave, that is parliamentary premises, until it is safe enough.
It's for their own safety.
I mean,
these are legislators for the country, and their security is paramount to the state.
Well, let's get to Mike Jordan.
We are coming to you live right now at this street that comes from Kampala Road, sloping to Nakasero Market, between the church house and Radio 1. Sloping down the side, it is business as it's not business as usual, but at least to make the factor, to put the facts straight, there has been no bomb in Nakasero Market, and there is nothing like such information. Like there were reports on social media and everywhere that there had been another explosion around Nakasero Market. That is not true. I'm standing in the middle of the road and there has been no explosion in Nakasero Market. If it is not the tense situation in the city, the people there, the vendors in Nakasero Market, would be doing their work as usual. But what have we seen in the city currently? We walked from Parliamentary Avenue, we went to Ginger Road and crossed to access Nakasero Market because of the cordoned off roads in there. So we walked the stretch of Ginger Road, Uganda House. What we saw, thousands of Ugandans, Kampala people moving out of town, due to what we discovered later that police has ordered people downtown in a number of buildings to walk out of town and go back home because of the tense situation that has occurred this morning in the city. So we don't know what the police is going to do within the town, but people have been walking in thousands out of town. Right where I'm standing, there's a building that has Mr. Tasty Fried Chicken. All the shops here are closed apart from one. Around Radio 1, some shops are closed all along Kampala Road. But here there's a building here, Maria's Galleria. It is open and people are operating their businesses. We don't know whether they are going to allow them to continue whole day, but that is the situation. Now, if my cameraman can give you the glimpse of what is happening down the other side. Down the other side, that is Holiday Express Hotel, and going beyond, the shops there are open. And it looks like people are operating their businesses, but although the situation is tense, they are all on the streets in a look like they're wondering what is happening and what is going to happen just after here. Yeah, thousands of people are on the streets looking on. They don't know what next, but at least there has been no explosion around this side of Nakasero. It has only been Parliamentary Avenue and opposite CPS, according to reports, where we are heading to right now. So at least the intention of this link here was to tell the country that there has been no explosion in Nakasero Market like the reports have been. It is only Parliamentary Avenue and opposite CPS. So that's where we're heading to, and we'll give you an update there. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, thank you, Mike Jordan Lukomwa, there for giving us a picture of what is actually happening around Nakasero Market, where it is all safe. Priscilla, something very also sudden to note is how empowered with information Ugandans are when such an incident occurs. You're seeing a person out of their shop just by the roadside, gathering in huge numbers, rendering themselves potential victims to any attempted terror threat.
And that is very absurd. And we continuously urge Ugandans, especially those around the city center, please make sure that you are away from any of these public spaces that can actually also be ending up as potential grounds for bomb alerts. Now, in regards to bomb threat situations such as the ones that we are in currently today, we just have some checkpoints for you to actually consider while you maneuver yourself throughout the day and wherever it is that you are currently. Check your work area for any unfamiliar items. Your office, it could be your store, it could be your shop. Just make sure that you check around, even if it's outside on the street, which may not be directly to your part of your business, but just make sure that outside the street you are familiar with every item, be it a dustbin. Open it and check, because right now anything is a potential threat. As Robert had earlier said, do not touch suspicious items, because if you touch them, then your finger marks are going to stay there, and then if they stay there and it's taken into police custody, we don't know what that will be interpreted as. And then of course report to the nearest police post in case of anything that you are suspecting in regards to the threats that we are facing this morning. And take personal belongings with you everywhere you're going this morning. If you're en route back home, you're closing your shop, make sure that your personal belongings, you go with them. The other thing, especially for people who are working within buildings that have either a lot of companies, businesses and things like that, leave the doors and windows open, just in case, as we have seen the pictures and the footage that is coming through on Parliamentary Avenue, also the footage that we have seen around CPS area, the shattering of glass. It may break the glass, but that glass is going to pop someone's eye out. It's definitely going to get into someone's skin. It's going to be a havoc. And so make sure that right now leave the doors open, especially with those that have glass functioning property. Leave the windows open, leave the doors open, and then do not turn the light switches on or off, just in case also the wiring around the area code has been disturbed. That could cause off an electric spark that could end up in another catastrophe that we still can avoid by being vigilant. And eventually, more or less, those who are moving away from buildings, use the staircases. And I know most buildings always have the fire assembly areas. Please report to those fire assembly areas. Do not
use
report,
the staircase, not
use
the
the
lift.
staircase, not the lift. Definitely.
Well, also police has come out to issue a number where anybody can call in case of such incidents that is happening, and that is a 077 999. The rest are 9 because it's 077 9999999. So other digits are 9. Please, police is saying anyone with relevant information or anyone with information that is a potential threat, please call these numbers. That is the National Emergency Call Center. Actually, you can also use this number on WhatsApp. For now, police is saying they need all your information. So that is the number. It is always 077. The rest are 9. Other digits for any information that you can communicate right now so that we deter a reoccurrence of this or any suspicious object. Sometimes you may be wondering, okay, there's this, how do you communicate? There are people that are ready to respond to any concern that is raised at such a time. Together, we can defeat terrorism. And of course, our team is already there and trying to give a feel of some of the parts where we've had these twin blasts in the city this morning, and that is around again around CPS. Of course, we are still seeing more ambulances and police vehicles run to the scene. Those are ambulances maybe evacuating some of the people that could have been injured, and of course that is Mike Jordan. He's already there, Jordan Lokomoa, to give us an update of what it is happening and what it is right now. Yes, Jordan.
Yes, Chirabo, thank you so much. We are still coming to you live right now in a junction between Church House and Radio Uganda, but along Kampala Road. You get in front Bank of Uganda. Now, Kampala Road, the busy Kampala Road you always know about, it is as clean as the church on Monday. There is no one along Kampala Road. All shops are closed and there is no one walking. It is only security personnel and probably a few journalists who are here to inform the world about what is happening. But Kampala Road has been cleaned, swept clean. There is no one walking. Actually, the few people that are walking, 2, 3, 4, are probably going home and they're not allowed to go anywhere. So that is the situation like. As you can see right now, this is Duster Street. The street that stretches down to Nakasero Market between Radio 1 and City House, then Church House. You can see thousands of people walking down the street going either home or something, but no one is allowed to operate any business along Kampala Road as we speak right now. It is super clean. Security probably has an agenda. They want to contain the situation and see how to prevent whatever could happen more. It is only ambulances, security, motor vehicles and things like that, trucks and vans, but nothing like a private car or anything that is allowed along Kampala Road. It is only security personnel, a few journalists and ambulances. So that is the situation here at Kampala Road. We wanted to give you that before we head on to Kochi Plaza because we are nearby. We don't even know whether we will be allowed to access Kochi Plaza because the situation there must be as the situation that was at Parliament Avenue. But we shall try our best to make sure that we give you the information. But as you can see in my background, Kampala Road is as clean as the word itself. There is nobody allowed to operate any business around Kampala Road or along Kampala Road. Like I told you, when we were walking from Parliamentary Avenue, we used Ginger Road. But we met thousands of people walking out of town. So probably those are people that have been operating businesses around Kampala Road and they have been pushed out of town because of the security situation that is as tense as I told you at the beginning of this whole kind of update. We thank you so much. Let's get back to you when we reach Kochi Plaza.
Okay, thank you, Jordan, and we hope you do all it takes to remain safe. Of course, also deployment seems to be more in the city as of now. You could see Jordan's background where we saw a number of foot soldiers and so much deployment. But of course, we continue to urge you that please let's deliver any form of information that has come your way to police, and police is saying yes, they've availed numbers where you can give this information and they will treat it with the due respect that it deserves in case of that. But Priscilla, still going back to an issue of concern that I feel really is how best we can manage these scenes. You know, when terrorists have one, usually how they carry out their work is almost like a trigger sometimes. And when you follow up globally where we've had these terror alerts, you find that there was the first bomb that goes off, there's a second bomb that goes off, then maybe sometimes a suicide bomber looks at a crowded area and makes another blast out of this. And we are seeing, apart from police sending people away, that I'm so concerned of how Ugandans find it attractive to converge and gather at some places, even amid such threats.
Well, trouble will always attract an eye or an attention. That's the truth. That's when we cannot run away from. And that is where we are really pleading with security organs. I know that there's so many that, and if we can have a partnership between all of them, because they're the best people to save us right now where we are in regards to the threat that we are having. In regards to the red tape, let us not just red tape the areas that have been directly affected by the bombs, but the potential nearby places also, such as the buildings, for example, where we've seen Jordan Lukomwa. Let them actually condone off all those area codes. Why? To push away the crowd and be able to avert it to another place that is much safer right now as we speak. But then again, at the same time, also avoiding crowding, because as you have said, crowding could potentially attract another potential terror threat right now.
However, we continue to believe that police will be giving us some information later on. At least we've gotten that assurance, and we know our team will be there to get that first-hand information from police on how many casualties, the injured, where they have been transported. Right now we have information that those around, that is the IPS building, were rushed to KCCA clinic for treatment. And of course, there are also suspected people that have lost their lives, but all this is upon police to confirm finally the actual figures of those who could have lost their lives in these bombings. But as of now, all we can say is it is time for us to ensure that you're safe wherever you are. The terrorists are with us. It is no longer a distant thing. It is no longer a minor issue, but it is something that we must consider. Wherever you are, is that place safe for you? If you're in charge of any security of any place, how are you factoring in terrorism? We've tried to perfect the art of SOPs, or standard operating procedures, at entry points and at venues, but now we also must look at the element of how best we guard against, or we close the gaps in which can be exploited by ill-minded people, the terrorists. Priscilla, at such a time when we are gearing up into the reopening, full reopening, now we see elements of insecurity coming in. What does this mean in terms of hopes of reopening? Just your opinion.
Well, in my opinion, hopes of reopening, they shouldn't freeze. We must soldier on. We shall not be threatened. We shall not be put down by these bomb blasts and the terror that you had talked about earlier, that they intended to create in the hearts of people. We should continue to be hopeful and prepare every possible way for what was committed by the leadership of this country, that come January 2022, we're going to have a full reopening of the economy, and the various sectors that have been under total lockdown, partial lockdown, are all going to be given a rule. Of course, that is on terms and conditions that we hit the target that the president did give on the full immunization or vaccination of people in Uganda, the full population that is supposed to be vaccinated, over 5 million. Is that what we're looking at? This morning we looked at the statistics, and so far the doses that have been administered are 4.8, which is a promise. Of course, we're not sure if those are first doses or second doses. They'll have to differentiate that information and disseminate it as time goes by. The target is that by 31st December 2021, we should have a full 5 million Ugandans fully vaccinated with the 2 doses for the jabs. In that regard, just to remind you, for COVID-19, in case you have to go for your second jab, ensure that you carry your card for the first jab so that they give you the right second jab. If you had Pfizer for the first round, you must get Pfizer for the second round. If you had AstraZeneca for first round, you must get AstraZeneca for the second round.
Wow, what a nice reminder at such a time. Of course, we are all looking at life. When we look at our country, if you remember very well, that is 2011, the Al-Shabaab came out and claimed that yes, they had responsibility over what had happened then, and gave their reasons not valid enough in reasoning, where they talked about Uganda, of course, being at the helm when it comes to fighting terrorism, and that is in Somalia. Of recently, we saw security organizations coming up clearly and saying, well, these are remnants of ADF supported by the Islamic State, but also that these people with ADF has been around for some time, even when we remember the shootings. Our security organizations have been arresting people in connection to the ADF, which is a terror group operating, that is in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah, and some of the unsettlement that we have been experiencing, especially last week when we had an influx of Congolese moving onto the western side of borders of Uganda, it's still because of that unsettlement that's caused by such groups.
So this is a group that has been around disturbing the peace of Ugandans, and of course we know that many a times government has been able to make a number of arrests, but of course we know that for terrorists or terrorism is something that you may not be able to defeat forever, as long as you've not been able to break these, what they call in terms of security, their slippery cells. That well, there's at the top of it there could be a huge group like the Al-Shabaab, that these are just their pockets to extend the fear in various parts of the country. But locally, there are cells, young youth they employ, young youth they indoctrinate into certain lives of thinking. Because when you look at, for example, the shift coach, this is a person that is suspected to have had the bomb himself. So that is a suicide bomber. Information coming in, of course, yet to be verified of what happened at IPS building, that it is believed that this is also another person who, in executing their mission, could have lost a life. So we are seeing people that are so committed even to losing a life. That means it takes time to prepare such a terrorist. And that is when we also look at how empowered, how vigilant is the community. Because you might find that these are people we know. I remember about 2 or 3 years back, there was a roundup at a mosque around Katwe. And police came out and brought that these were young people being indoctrinated in the middle of the city. Katwe is not very far. That they are recruiting people, taking them into terrorism activities, playing around with the minds of such to carry out. So these things happen in our communities. These trainings, these recruitments happen in our communities. But sometimes maybe we think that issues of security are for police. Issues of security are for the DSO, the RDC. These are sophisticated people that have had enormous training, and we take it away. Tourists don't come from Mars.
Well, you do have a point that you make there, Robert. And for me, I would actually like to take it back to when we had the attempted assassination on General Katumba Wamala's life, in which he lost his daughter and driver in that incident. It was such a sad incident. But you see, one of the things that helped justice be served is the introduction of some of these security ADs. I'm talking about CCTV cameras. And if we can now use such a thing, such a time as this, to actually deploy more of such technology to be able to help police in ascertaining these things that you're talking about. For example, gatherings that you could be thinking, okay, those are suspicious gatherings, they've just started, they're taking in only young people, a particular age group. With CCTV cameras, you can be able to trace some of these things back to what exactly you are pointing out in that regard. Even if it's in regards to just footage that we need right now to help us go forward, that definitely is going to be, that has to be enhanced or boosted for that matter. You did look at the president coming out and saying, moving forward, and again, picking up from the General Katumba Wamala incident, he came out to say that moving forward, trackers must be placed on every vehicle. And yeah, different people did not receive that directive very well. Others were for it, others were against it, others were saying no, but it's not me who caused it. In terms of self-security, where does it leave public information, access to the information of the trackers? Won't this open up more security issues? But now, more than ever, now we see and understand the necessity of some of these directives. They are to protect Uganda as a whole and continuously make it a safe and peaceful country. A tracker on a vehicle, if we had trackers on vehicles and borders, as we did have a reporter earlier state that it could have been a border rider who had brought this person who had the bomb, especially the one that did explode off on Parliamentary Avenue, then that tracker would have gone a long way in actually aiding, coming out with an investigative report earlier than later.
Well, we'll continue to remind you of the number if you could be having any information or sense a suspicious character, suspicious person, or even any item to report to police. And the number is 077. The rest are 9. Strictly, this is for emergencies. Strictly, this is for emergencies. Police, this is not for anything else, but if you're to give information, this is the National Emergency Call Center of Uganda Police. The line is very active at such a time, more so as the security organizations or organs of this country are doing their best to ensure they protect life and property, but also minimize the impact of such incidents, the twin blasts that we've had in the city this morning. That is one at IPS building, and of course the other at Koki Towers, just adjacent to Central Police Station. Mike Jordan Lukomwa, anytime from now, will be there to give us a picture of what the situation is like. Reliable information indicates that we've had people injured in this blast, but also lives suspected to have been lost. But remember, it is upon police to come out and confirm these figures of persons injured and lives being lost. But we shall be going to Mike Jordan, and he'll be giving you more information regarding such. But just remind you that terrorism is a problem. I remember just a month when the East African Parliament, the Legislative Assembly, met, and they were discussing terrorism as a threat to the region at such a time.
And actually, even Kenya neighbors have had picked up on the insecurity alerts that we were having here in Uganda, and they picked it up and were also trying to tighten their security. And here we are today, giving them another reason to tighten their security, because again, because of the border to sea trade that we also have to allow continue even amidst such time as this. Of course, later on we're going to be sharing with you a traffic update in regards to the places that have been red taped, the no-go areas this morning into the afternoon and the rest of the day, and actually what it's going to look like tomorrow, because this is just a build-up to what it's actually going to be looking like. So we'll later be giving you a traffic update of the roads that are not passable right now or accessible right now, and the alternative routes that you can use around the heart of the city. For those of you that have been in areas where you are not directly affected by this, but it's definitely going to direct your decision of choice en route to your next location, or most probably you heading back home. I would definitely be sharing that later on.
And of course, don't forget to remind you that please leave the city if you're not among the essential workers in such a time of disaster. Please vacate the city, the earlier the better. Of course, security is doing all its best to ensure first they comb these places, strip these places to ascertain how safe they are, and also information being gathered. Please don't participate in any gathering. There's no reason for you to stay around. Head home. The earlier, the better. Remember, curfew stands. And of course, this means that the earlier you leave the city, you're giving a conducive environment for the security organizations to carry out their work, as far as ensuring we do not have this reoccurrence, but also ensuring that they carry out their investigations in a clear manner. We are seeing footages of people gathering, people trying to find out more. UBC will be giving you all the information, our sister radio stations and our TV stations. So please, it is important that you protect yourself and you're safe at such a time. Priscilla, yes. Of course, we are still getting more information coming in. And just remind us that Nakasero market is now calm and there is no bomb blast as earlier reported. Business is back to normal. However, everybody in the city is concerned and most places have been closed. Some supermarkets are closed, banks have been closed, And of course, traffic on some roads is
Obviously,
heavy.
you can see that's a traffic diversion from Kampala Road that we just saw Lukonwa, showing us that there's no exit or entry of vehicles. So the traffic is being averted to climb up where you would be having the Mango officers coming up to the Speak roundabout that is adjacent to Sheraton Hotel, and then I think then it's being diverted to Buganda, to maybe not Buganda Road, because then Buganda Road has also been affected by the bomb blast that has happened at Kochi Towers. But our business is back to stable and normality in Nakasero Market. Vendors are still going on with what they do best every single day, providing you with food for the stomach. Anyway, we wait for Jordan to give us an insight of what the Buganda Road is looking like into the afternoon. Now that we've stepped into the afternoon, of course, UBC, we're here committed to give you updates as and when they are coming in.
And of course, that is Jordan. He's already there, and he will be giving us more updates of what the situation is like. That is just at around CPS. Yes, Jordan.
Yes, Chidabo, we are now in the junction of Mapera House, former Pioneer Mall that is under reconstruction, then CPS and City Square just behind me. As you can see, this is the route that goes to CPS. In the first place, I want to clear the air and put the record straight. According to the information I've gathered here, the explosion was not in Kochi Plaza, but what I'm yet to confirm, the information is it was at the quarter guard of Central Police Station. That I'll get more facts and confirm, but that is what so far I have gathered on arrival here. That is the situation like. The explosion was at the quarter guard of Central Police Station, and a number of people have been injured, and there are suspicions of deaths as well, lives that have been lost within the Central Police Station due to the explosion. As you can see, like I said before, Kampala Road is clean. There is nobody moving apart from security personnel, security vans, that is a Minister of State, such people, and a few of us journalists who are here for work to gather information for the public. The rest of the people, all the shops are closed, and there is nobody moving. This is the road that crosses to downtown. You can see it is blocked with 2 police trucks, and nobody is allowed to access it going the other end. This is the other road that goes to Arua Park. It is also sealed off from the other end, almost near Arua Park. That's where it's sealed off. No one is allowed to go beyond or access where we are, coming towards this side of Kampala Road. And Kampala Road is as clean up to the other end of Equatorial Mall. And that is the situation here like. No one is allowed to go beyond here, moving towards CPS. You can see it is all cordoned off by the police and security personnel, and the police and other security personnel have cordoned off CPS. We don't know what they are doing, but of course we shall get to know with time, and we shall know what the arrangement is like and what intentions they have to take on immediately after this kind of tragedy that hit the city in the morning. Like I said, we first had this kind of situation years back when people were watching World Cup at Lugogo and the Ethiopian village. Then the other incident in the bus, another incident in Komamboga, and right now we woke up to 2 big ones, of which we have reports of lives lost and things like that. So we're going to give you all the information pertaining to this occurrence, ugly occurrence, early in the morning on this Thursday morning, or Tuesday morning, I beg your pardon, and we will get to know more. I want to talk to one of the leaders who was here with some information. Somebody is going to see that we get to talk to him. Maybe he has some information that we may need, and that's when I'll get back to you, Chirabo. Let me source that gentleman. Probably he was at the scene, and maybe he has some picture that he can shed for us to get a direction of what we are talking about. Let me first get back to you, Chirabo, when I get to this gentleman.
Thank you, Jordan, for giving us a feel of what is happening there. Very unfortunate incidents that have rocked the city this morning, and more so when you talk about that could have, the blast could have happened at the quarter guard. You know, a quarter guard is the entrance. So that really carries
that fits a lot of volume in. Either they're sending out a message, you're looking at them, you know, putting a mark of sorts. Because again, as I stated, that if we were to analyze, and I'm glad there's a team that is coming through to give us more analysis in this regard, the places that have been affected, where they've already topped off, these are significant places.
Definitely.
They're not places where you maraga, you know, plant especially bombs or create any sort of threat, because they're highly, heavily guarded places within the capital.
Well, very unfortunate, but we continue to pray and believe that the security agencies will be on top of the game. And of course, we know they can't do that individually. We need to give relevant information. Like we've always known, and it's said globally, that the eye is the best weapon to fight terrorism. What you see, then what you communicate. And as long as you communicate in time, then we can avert the likely of such from happening. I and Priscilla will be handing over to another team of ACOL, and they'll be giving you more regarding the two blasts that happened in the city. We'll give you full-time coverage and updates as they unfold, plus official information from the authorities later on. But we'll leave you with the Mututa, and of course ACOL Mazima will be taking you more. But let's end this session with a feel of what is happening at Nakasero Market. Remember earlier there had been false reports that Nakasero Market had also been a blast at such an incident at this very venue, but these are false and consider them as false.
Abaganda disaient bon. That's why we're seeing them
buli sawa buli kimu kitwala kisolo oli live njagala kukafunira mukowali
era bali making a more steps behind, backwards.
You're still tuned to UBC TV, and indeed a very sad day where we see scores injured and some reported dead after a bomb blast that is at IPS along Parliamentary Avenue and at CPS here in Kampala. Amanda Kolamzima, and with me in studio is Mututa looking at this. You're welcome, Mututa. Well, some are looking at this as a terrorism event, or how would you term it?
Of course, the issues when it comes to such attacks, of course, I mean, by ordinary standards, still you could say it's terrorism, because its nature and the way it's conducted, of course, qualifies to be terrorism. But it's unfortunate. Of course, there is no terrorism act which is fortunate. All of them are unfortunate. But for the loss of the lives that we are hearing, I know, of course, police will definitely give us the figures by the end of the day. We will have known how many people would have been injured or and how many could have died. But I know still we are being assured that the security forces are at the top of the game, and hopefully that we will not have many deaths. Although a death is a death anyway, would have lost their life.
Well, this is not the first time we're having this. You remember in the 90s, of course, we had isolated cases of bomb explosions here and there, especially in the tax park. And this also comes at a time, it follows a pattern. We had one in Komamboga. There were those who were hit by bombs, that is in Nakaseke. Yeah. So we've seen some pattern, and now we wake up to this sad news. How should the Wananchi work with the security forces? In other words, you see such an event, or such a thing requires that there should be collective efforts between the citizens and the security forces, just like it has always been.
But the biggest unfortunate thing is that most of the people, the Ugandans, are not very aware of the environment, especially when it comes to such attacks. But I'm also hopeful that the level of awareness is continuing to raise, and the unfortunate thing again is that these people seem to be targeting soft targets. You are looking at people on a bus, you are looking at people walking, like this one at IPS building. It is mainly pedestrians, people who are walking past, and so you realize not many people may be aware of that type of environment. But the level of awareness is also increasing, because we have now, especially if we want to use the bag, Ugandans are now knowing that an abandoned bag is a problem. Something abandoned is a problem. We're also now learning that even an abandoned vehicle can be a problem. So something that is already abandoned. But still, police cannot provide security for every person, for every inch of this country. The biggest part is to be played by us, the people, to be vigilant. I'm sure if these bombs were made, they were made in Kampala here, or if they were made from some place before they were brought to Kampala.
No, I think it's too early to say that they were made in Kampala. We shall maybe wait for the military or the police.
So, but what I'm saying is that we need to be conscious of our environment, and even know the brother's keeper, what is happening in our environments. But when you look at it, I think it is unfortunate that, like we said, the softer targets that are being taken out. But I think the way the police is handling it and the security agencies, the response, is going to help to actually make someone think twice before doing something in the
Now,
city.
let's look at the locations, and especially this at IPS, because when you look at that Parliamentary Avenue, it actually hosts the three arms of government.
Yeah.
We have the Ministry of Justice.
And the Raja Chambers.
Around that place. We actually also see a short distance, a very small distance, we have Parliament. And remember also the office of the President is actually also at Parliament. So
the office of the IGG.
Yes, actually office of the IGG.
Yeah.
Now, the proximity to really the centers of power.
And KCCA.
Does that speak volumes?
Maybe someone is trying to communicate. Someone is trying to send a message. That is true. But also that it is also possible that the high security, because that area also has high security, could also have averted, because maybe the plan was to do something worse than that. So, but the vigilance of security around that area could have helped to avert it to the level that we see now. But at the same time, that also shows that there's more, or this need for more consciousness, because one who is trying to send a message say, look, if we can be able to go deeper into where, like the instances that you have mentioned, that they could go anywhere. But I think that such a message could also be underrating the awareness of the security within Kampala and the rest of the country.
Yeah, we must say the response of the security is so far so good that we see most of the areas being cordoned off, so that it can give opportunity to actually investigate further. And also, in case there are any more explosions around the area, so that no more lives are actually affected, or more properties are affected. But now, let's get back to the role of the Wananchi, because ideally in such a situation, the Wananchi must know that at the end of the day, it affects the economy. For example, now like today, most of the people are really not going to work. Not only to actually for the whole week, because there's still that fear. And given that we are recovering from the effects of COVID, and now if we get into such kind of situation, then it means it's most likely going to affect the economy, and that's why the Wananchi. Now, how do we, as Ugandans, strengthen the Wananchi and the relationship between the Wananchi and the security forces?
And that's why the police is saying, if you are at home, be at home. If you are in town, try to get back home, because you can't now know what happens next. But the gist of the matter is that there is need for the Wananchi, the ordinary person, me and you, the people, to be vigilant, because you are not going to avoid to move in a taxi to town, or you are not going to avoid going to a shopping mall or a market to get the supplies for the families, but that we need to be more conscious. And while security agencies are doing their part, we also now need to do our part in terms of being aware of this environment, and also being vigilant what happened. And the police has also given the numbers to call in the case that you see anything suspicious, that you have to call police, especially now in these cases of emergency. So we working together, both the community, the local leaders, and then the security agencies. I think this can be managed, because police is not going to manage every inch of this country, and yet for us, the people, we are all over, and you cannot provide security for everyone. Now, even if you did provide security, if a bomb goes off, it doesn't discriminate who is a security personnel.
Yeah, hold on to your point. We have Jordan, and Jordan taking us through and giving us the latest update on how the situation is like. Yes, Jordan, you're live on UBC TV.
Yes, thank you so much, Akola Mazima. We are coming to you live from the heart of the central business district of Uganda, that is Kampala, and at Kampala Road. Right now, as we speak, we are at the road that goes downtown between Mapera House, that is the main seat of Centenary Bank, and Pioneer Mall, which is under reconstruction. And this road goes straight down to the old taxi park, Mutasa Kafero, and those other places. But as we speak, some other thing, another kind of, is it a bomb, has been detonated at Mabirizi complex on its right-hand side, at the entrance of a supermarket called Urban Supermarket. Something was wrapped in a gift bag, glittering. We just saw security personnel chasing us away, and after a few minutes, we had an explosion of the content of that bag. But we want to talk to somebody who could have had a glimpse of what happened about the explosion before, and is here. But before something is here, there's something here. The experts are here looking at something. Probably, you never know, there could be another bomb. The gentleman is taking pictures. That where you see that gentleman is exactly where the gift bag that has just been detonated a few minutes ago was. It had been planted above a transformer. Probably whoever put it there expected a bigger explosion because it was going to affect the transformer. And thank God we did not live to see the impact of that. A bomb exploding at the top of a transformer. So where you see the senior police officer in black and another security personnel dressed in an overall with an helmet on him, that's where the last item suspected to also have been a bomb has just been detonated. What you see glittering are the pieces of the gift bag where it is said to have been wrapped. On our arrival here, it was at the top of the transformer. That green transformer you see at the entrance of Urban Supermarket. So whoever was in that supermarket, God has given them another chance, because the story would be different by now. That is the situation in Kampala. We are at Kampala Road. Here in the middle of our beautiful capital city. We had 2 bombings early in the morning, one at the Parliamentary Avenue and another one at Central Police Station. And thank God, the other one that was going to cause harm is the one that has just been detonated by security experts here. They are carrying on an inspection, probably. We don't know why. This being their field, we can't tell why, but they are carrying on an inspection. And we'll get to know what exactly they are trying to find out and what they are looking at. This only opens our eyes to be more vigilant about whatever we find and meet. At the very point where the gift bag is, there are 3 cameras at the top and 2 transformers, gadgets that supply electricity. In fact, it's a generator and a transformer. That's where the other bomb was, packed in a gift bag, glittering, and no one could expect it to be a bomb. That's how deadly the situation was. kamera yo tugikebedde kamera yo tugikebedde tetubalulira wano. How are you?
Road, a place that has always been very, very busy, but now you can see it's only the security personnel and maybe journalists in the area who are just a handful of people, and that is how terrorism is bad, or that is how acts of insurgency are bad, because they really affect so many people. Remember, the majority of Ugandans, the majority of people who stay around that area are actually living a hand-to-mouth kind of life, and therefore if such a situation is not really contained, then many are really going to be affected. Ndugu mtazamaji wa UBC TV, siku ya leo ni siku ya majonzi, tarehe 16 Novemba 2021. Leo asubuhi kulitokea mlipuko wa bomu mbili, kwanza katika mtaa wa Parliamentary Avenue na katika kituo cha kati cha polisi cha Kampala, ambapo wengi wamejeruhiwa na baadhi wamefariki dunia, wameaga dunia. Hadi wa sasa tunasubiria ujumbe kutoka vyombo vya dola au vyombo vya usalama ili kutupasha habari tuweze kujua nini hasa kinachoendelea, au vipi kwa tathmini yao ni nini kwa kweli kimesababisha hicho kisa. Lakini kwa sasa kila mtu anaombwa akiwa bado yuko nyumbani basi abaki nyumbani. Wale ambao hawana shughuli, hawana ulazima wa kuja mjini, wabaki nyumbani hadi pale mambo yatakapotulia, hadi pale serikali itakapoidhinisha eti watu warudi makazini kwao. Lakini kwa sasa tunasema kwamba tushirikiana na vyombo vya usalama, hasa polisi na askari jeshi au askari wa UPDF, ili kuhakikisha kwamba tunatokomeza ugaidi. Now back to studio, James, looking at our past experience in fighting terrorism or terrorists. Of course, after the 2010 bomb blast, we remember UPDF and police jointly really stamping out the perpetrators of that. We've also seen our UPDF really actually even going to other countries trying to stamp out terrorism. So now here it is with us, and definitely, as Jordan has shown us, there was also another bomb awaiting explosion, but thank God that actually our security personnel have been in time to come and detonate it. So this calls for vigilance, combined vigilance, that is from the wananchi and the security. But also, don't you think now it is time that as it was done before, people should be taken through on how to identify bombs? And also, don't you think that it's time that now, not only in Kampala but everywhere, efforts of actually identifying those kind of bombs that have been planted or thrown anyhow should actually be done, so that perhaps, you never know, it could help us save more lives, but also help contain this kind of situation that we are seeing, because really we don't know the pattern. Looking at the pattern, you see every other 2-3 days you find that there is a bomb blast, or there has been a bomb that has been left being discovered by either playing children, or perhaps people are walking by. So how do we really come together and have this sorted out?
Of course, it is becoming a bit tricky, and of course, whoever does it also makes sure that it's not predictable. But the most important thing is that we are not going to be having bombs every other day all the time. But vigilance is key in most cases. Of course, for a person who is also trying to plan that, has to be in the mind of person to understand what is happening. But like you said, I think the most important thing is that we need to be vigilant. The population needs to be vigilant. But also, of course, like I said, you are not going to be provided with security for everyone, but everyone can have security for themselves and also the security of the community in which we are living. So there have been attempts, we have been following reports in the media of attacks within the region, not only Uganda. We have
and now that you talk about the region, it takes us to what is happening on the continent.
Exactly.
Everywhere we are seeing a country trying to make economic and political progress. We find that now it's being affected. Look at Nigeria.
Yeah.
What is happening in Nigeria? Look at what is happening in Ethiopia. Of course, these are kind of course, like in Uganda, there's no way we can run away from the fact that President Yoweri Museveni is one of the most senior Pan-Africans now that are living. That every other time there's a crisis on the continent, actually everyone would want to come and consult with him to seek his opinion. So don't you think this also could have a component of the enemies of Africa?
Yeah, so what is happening is not an isolated case. We saw last time an attack on the French embassy in Tanzania. We have seen a number of other similar attempts or attacks in other parts of Africa. But you also may be aware that this happens a few days just because I think next week, Monday, we are supposed to have IGAD meeting in Kampala to address the issues of insurgency in Sudan and Somalia, also the issues of Ethiopia.
Yes.
So when this happens, it is not an isolated thing. There must be a bigger plan behind it. That once you do this
to stop the meeting.
Exactly. Once you do this in Kampala, then the IGAD meeting it will stop.
Actually, because now, I remember COVID had stopped leaders from meeting.
Exactly.
Because most of the meetings were done virtually. But now at a time they say, okay, look here, we can meet physically, and then somebody is coming to do this to scare us.
Yes.
Look here, we cannot meet in Kampala.
So for me, I wouldn't rule out a connection when you look at what is happening in Ethiopia, when you see what is happening in the Sudan, you see what is happening in other parts of the region, and you come to this. So there could be a collaboration. But at the same time, is that Uganda is not new to what is happening today. There is some resilience that the country has attained even with this. And when you also look at the nature and the type of attack that we have witnessed today, you also realize that, well, it is done, but it's also maybe done cowardly. Of course, if you are going to attack a police station and you are going to cause that mayhem, they are fine.
Or to attack unarmed people. And the president also called it that is an act of cowardice.
Exactly. So I think if you are to do it at all, then be civil, be professional. But that notwithstanding, you realize that there is now more need to consolidate the efforts, because there is no single country that can fight this type of activity alone. Yeah, if it's a region, we need to have a combined force and sharing of intelligence on time, that some of these attacks can be really averted.
Yeah, because this also comes just a few days after an attack in Eastern Congo, where we saw really some running out of the country
to Uganda.
Yes, to Uganda. But though, of course, they told them that those who are willing can still go back, others are still back here. So implying that really it is a pattern, there's a pattern of insurgency in the region that really needs to be worked out. But what we learned from the Westgate, you remember after the 2013 yes, election in Kenya, after the 2013 election in Kenya, there was an attack on the Westgate, and we saw President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, his deputy William Somei Ruto, the opposition, that is Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, with his former running mate Kalonzo Musyoka. We saw Mudavadi, also there Musalia Mudavadi. We also saw Wetangula. We saw all the political players, both in the opposition and government, coming together to jointly address a press conference to condemn terrorism. Now here, do you see that coming here in Uganda?
You'll not be surprised to hear people saying, what was government doing, what has government done, what already I heard someone was saying, the police, I know there was a report in one of the stations, that the police response to this was very slow, knowing that police has even also lost some members. I mean, have people who have been injured there. Don't know if some people have also died. But we have had police officers who have been injured as a result of this, because there was, like at Parliament, I was told there was an earlier fire outbreak. And when people ran to address the fire outbreak, then the bomb goes off. So we have also had people who are. So there is that thinking that government should have done this, or to make government look like it was responsible for the blast. But I think it is also important that when some of these things happen, for leaders of all shades to come together, so that because each of them has a following, and we need to have one mind if we are to fight this kind of terrorism. But if you say, oh, okay, for me it is the government that this, that, and like I said, for me, I'm not to be surprised to hear people saying President Museveni has failed to do this, or President. But it is again, like I said, it is not only one man show. It is not only a security personnel show. It is everyone who should be concerned about their lives, our lives, but also the lives of other people. Because at the end of it, the bomb doesn't discriminate whether you are in yellow or red or blue. Yes. It will take you anyway.
or whether you're Ugandan or you're visiting the country. Yes. Yes, dear viewers, still tuned to UBC TV, and we continue with the updates on actually the explosions today and what the security forces are doing so as to mitigate or to contain the situation. Because as you can see, that has always been a very, very busy area, but because of what is going on, you can see the place is actually more than deserted. But this takes us to 2016, when President Yoweri Museveni was spot on to telling the people, and I spoke in Luganda, ekibuga kyammwe temukifuula ddwaniro. And now actually this gives us, it paints that picture that in case there are a group of people who feel they can turn the city into a battlefield, actually this is the effect that can be not only to the politics but also to the economy, because most people really, yes, come to town to work. Most people come to town to look for food so that they can put food on their table. But remember, we've just been out of a lockdown. But with a lockdown, one would go hungry when you know that you're safe at home. But now here with this kind of terrorism, whereby you don't know where the next bomb explosion is going to be, then people are going to be put on tension that even what they can do, they will actually fear to do it. I was traveling in a taxi from Nakawa, but when news came in, people told the driver, please stop for us, we are ending our journey here. We are going back
because
home.
Like the police were saying, in such a situation, we need now to avoid gatherings. We need to avoid, like in a road situation where you have taxis or vehicles jammed together. That can be a fertile ground for this.
Now, that makes the already bad situation worse, especially now people are, the president the other time just opened, slightly opened the economy from the lockdown. Students have just re-reported at universities, and now when this sets in, it means that we need to up our game so that we can work with the security forces so that we can actually stamp out terrorism as fast as we can.
Yeah, because also if we are to open the economy, then it goes beyond the corona, the virus that we have been suffering with, into now a new corona. And that
a more dangerous corridor.
Exactly,
Yes.
it has to be addressed because you are going to a market and say you can wash your hands and you put on your mask
And the sanitizers.
and you'll be
when
safe.
you get back home, the same thing. Yes.
So that is going to go beyond that. But also, what also need to look at is that someone could be planning to cause more chaos so that we go into more financial depression as a country. But like we said, maybe it is not only the country, the Uganda, that can suffer from the ripples of this. It is a regional problem, and I'm sure it will be addressed. And I am also confident that whatever has happened today will, given the way it happened, I'm sure the security forces will come up on top of this one.
Yeah, still looking at the regional issues, because it is at a time we are thinking of opening our markets in DR Congo, so that by actually having the roads properly done in Congo, so that we can easily sell our goods to Eastern Congo. But you find also that is the part of the country that was also attacked just recently, and now we see this coming to Kampala. So let's look at the geopolitics, the regional politics, the regional enemies. We shouldn't look at the geopolitics, but
exactly.
Regional enemies, that who are there to ensure that, yes, we really don't tap into our Eastern DRC Congo market.
Normally very hesitant sometimes looking at how my problem as resulting from as someone responsible for my problem. But it is also very possible that when you realize that this unending your problems could be magnified by some other force outside the region. But also knowing that Uganda is one of the countries now at the center of the unification of the region, but also as one of the progressive...
Not only unification, but also stability.
Yes, of the Great Lakes region, and also the continent as such, because we have had to support our brothers and sisters elsewhere on the continent. So for someone who may want to have the status of chaos as was in the continent, would not be very comfortable with that. Now sometimes we talk about the things and we look at them in passing, but sometimes you realize that the forces, someone has to sit and plan the chaos so that other people can be affected and then they can benefit. You know, the politics of the world is that bad. Now, but the most important thing is that now calls for the strength and the unity of the leaders at all levels. Because should you now begin pointing fingers at one another, then you lose, and then you are playing in the hands of your enemy. But if the leaders today are going to come up to say, this is wrong, and we need to be together to be able to fight this, then we can move forward and faster, like the president of Kenya and other political leaders did. But so it's also going to be a test on our side to see how mature our politicians, our leaders are, and of course how sensitive they are, but of course also how the whole situation will be handled if it's going to be done, and I guess professionally, but also the other, because the police and the other security agencies can do their part, but also the support that they get from other leaders, from other agencies of government will be very key.
Well, let everyone be the brother's keeper. And you see, in Uganda, of course, we have this tendency that somebody will come and rent in an area, and no one is bothered. Even the person may never report to the LOC, perhaps only known by the landlord and maybe a few neighbors. So it is time that we should really get to understand who is your neighbor, what do they do if in case there is somebody who's just come to the community, who's just joined, whether it's even a visitor? Is the chairman LOC one aware that the visitor, you have a visitor who has come to stay, and for how long is the person going to stay with you? And also in the neighborhood, have you taken trouble to really introduce the guest to them? I think by doing so, in one way or the other, we may actually contain some of such incidences.
Ugandans will have what they call kajanja. When you see a new person, a visitor, we are so welcoming. You'll even say, before the person sits, let the luggage you put in your house, and then before the person.
Yeah, and of course, that is our good side, which must not be abused.
Yeah, yes. But I think to the extent that it's now being abused, that we will now begin asking the visitors, what have you come with?
What have you come to do?
And what have you come to do?
Yes.
And for how long are you going to be with us?
Yes.
Then we need to have to report to the LOC about this visitor, which is a bit ridiculous, but I think that's where life is taking us. Because if we can't do that, then we'll have a problem, and it will affect everyone. Because we are not. As I was one time in the Nordics, and there is a robbery that had taken place in a shop, and then we were asking, but there were people in the shop. Why couldn't they say no? When you are in the shop and there is a robbery going on, you don't make noise. You don't even struggle with the thieves because you're not. That's not your job. Yours is to let them take what they can take, but you have the security cameras, you have insurance, so you don't have to. So before we come to that level, we now need also to be security cameras for ourselves, because we are not going to have security cameras in every home, in every street. Of course, I know in Kampala we have the cameras that are working, but not we're not going to have those cameras in every part of the country. So as humans, our eyes are going to be those cameras, and we also need to be conscious and also get interested on what is happening in the neighborhood. It's very key, because sometimes we live in our enclaves, but we can't tell what is happening in the next.
Yeah, and of course here there's no one can say that you are portioning blame to any security organ, because ideally surprise beats even the strongest.
Exactly.
Yes, because when it comes to issues of being security alert, I think UPDF and Uganda police have really exhibited a high level of being security alert. Yeah, but of course we don't need to get into the much of the blame game, but how do we really work with the forces so that we put an end to this, so that people really can go on with their own businesses, so that also everybody can be given opportunity to participate in the development of the country. Remember, we just come out from an election. We've had 2 years of actually on and off lockdown because of COVID-19, and the pandemic is still with us. Now here we are getting into another phase of issues, which is the terrorism threat. I wouldn't also wish to hear Uganda being tagged as a bedrock of what? Of terrorism. Exactly. You remember when President Obama was about to visit Kenya, and it was CNN baptized Kenya a bedrock of what? Of terrorism. So I think really no one would wish their country to be baptized that. Yes, and it's important that we work time. Now there is this kind of argument that in 2010, shortly after we had gone to Somalia, we had terror attacks in Uganda as a result of that. And now they say now at a time we've actually allowed to host the Afghan refugees. I mean, yes, now this is what we are getting out of it. So how do we create, do we develop, or perhaps manage this, and perhaps also giving Ugandans confidence that, look here, no, these could be isolated cases, but also government and the security forces have the capacity to handle and contain them.
Yeah, but even in an ordinary life situation, when you grow, you face more dangerous threats than when you are young.
You're young, yes, yes, yes.
Because
every passing day,
exactly,
you are exposed to new.
So what is happening also is an indicator that Uganda is growing. And by that fact that you are growing, then we get exposed to a lot of threats, life-threatening threats. Hosting, we have refugees from Sudan, we have refugees from Congo, we have refugees from Burundi, we have refugees. So Afghans are just one of those groups that Uganda allowed to transit, and I think the arrangement was that transiting to where they could be going after here. So I wouldn't think that we need to be punished for that, because it was only a gesture of humanity. Now, if that becomes a problem, to some people actually it can be a problem. But also that when you look at countries that have been subjected to a lot of such attacks, it is the underlying factor is also the level of attainment of development that they are scoring. That when a country is trying to raise beyond some threshold, then you'll find issues of terrorism coming in,
issues of insecurity.
Yes, coming in. Yeah, but that is until you have to outgrow that one also. You have to go over it, and by the time you go over it, you will have attained some level of tools that can help you to be able to stay above that. From the time we had the 2010 attack, I think Uganda graduated to some level beyond where we were, that even when there were a number of attempts to cause more mayhem in this country, the security was already at the top of the game. So I believe that even what is happening today, unfortunately, as it is also going to help us to improve our mechanisms, and maybe it is going to give us a better chance